"Hey, don't you dare walk through this gate like you belong." The gate agent's voice tore across the terminal like a whip, sharp enough to freeze conversations mid-air. Travelers stopped in their tracks, heads turning toward the source of the sudden eruption. There, at the front of the boarding line, stood a young black woman, 22 years old, confident yet stunned into stillness as the weight of humiliation fell on her shoulders in front of strangers. The man's sneer was thick with arrogance as he leaned forward, his badge gleaming under the sterile airport lights. "Not today, not on my watch. People like you don't fly first class." Before I continue, what country are you watching from? Drop it in the comments. Also smash that subscribe button. Turn on the notification bell. Because what happens next? It's bigger than humiliation. It's revelation. And you need to hear every second of it. Passengers gasped. The words hung in the air like smoke after a firecracker, choking and suffocating. And before she could even react, before her voice could find strength, the agent's hand shot forward. He ripped the boarding pass from her grip, crumpled it in his fist, and in one deliberate, brutal motion, tore it to shreds. The pieces fluttered to the shiny tiled floor like discarded dignity. For a heartbeat, silence consumed the gate. Then, the low hum of whispers began. A ripple of disbelief spread through the terminal as onlookers fumbled for their phones, some recording, others shaking their heads. She was Amira, 22 years old, a college graduate stepping into her own future, carrying herself with quiet confidence. Dressed in a simple fitted blazer and jeans, her braids pulled neatly back. She wasn't loud, she wasn't entitled, she wasn't demanding attention. She was simply waiting to board a flight like everyone else. But in that instant she became the target. Her jaw clenched, her fingers tightened into fists at her side, and her chest rose sharply as tears burned in her eyes. But she didn't let them fall. Not yet. Not here. She refused to give the agent that satisfaction. The gate agent puffed himself up, his eyes darting around the crowd as if searching for applause, for agreement, for someone to validate his cruelty. Instead, he was met with silence. Heavy, suffocating silence. But Amira wasn't just another passenger. She wasn't someone who could be erased with a ripped ticket. What the agent didn't know, what no one in that terminal could have guessed, was that Amira was the daughter of the man who owned the airline. The very man whose name stood on contracts, whose decisions kept fleets in the sky, whose signature signed paychecks, including the one the gate agent so proudly lived on. Still, in that moment, the only thing visible to him was her skin. Amira's heart raced. She thought of the countless times she'd been told she didn't belong. She thought of doors slammed in her face, of rooms where she'd been underestimated, of stares that lingered too long. This moment was not new, but it was raw, painful, public. She swallowed the lump in her throat, her mind whispering one truth over and over. If only he knew. If only he knew who I am. If only he knew whose daughter I am. The crowd shifted uneasily. A woman whispered, "This is wrong." A man shook his head. A child tugged at his mother's sleeve and asked, "Why's he being so mean?" But still, no one intervened. The gate agent smirked, believing he had stamped authority. He leaned closer, his words dripping like poison. "Next time, save yourself the embarrassment. You'll never belong in that seat." But as his words settled in the air, something else stirred in the terminal. A presence, a gravity that shifted the atmosphere. From across the room, a voice thundered, "Is this how you represent my company?" Passengers turned, gasps escaping lips like a chorus of disbelief. The agent stiffened, his face twisting in confusion and horror. Walking through the crowd with purposeful strides was a tall black man in a tailored navy suit. his presence commanding, his eyes sharp as steel. The aura around him was undeniable. Authority radiated from his very being. Whispers spread like wildfire. "That's him. That's the owner. That's the man who runs this airline." The gate agent's confidence shattered. His body stiffened, his arrogance dissolved into ash. He realized, with soul-crushing clarity, that the woman he had just humiliated was not only a paying customer, she was the daughter of the man who built the very empire he worked for. Amira's chest loosened as relief washed over her. She had held her ground, silent and strong, and now justice was stepping forward on her behalf. Her father stopped inches from the agent, his gaze locked in fury. He didn't need to raise his hand. He didn't need to shout further. His presence was louder than any insult, heavier than any punishment. The silence was suffocating. The agent stammered, "Sir, I didn't know." But ignorance was no defense. The crowd knew it, the cameras knew it, and the airline's owner knew it too. Phones captured the scene, lenses zooming in on the shredded ticket at the agent's feet. The symbol of arrogance now transformed into the symbol of his downfall. Passengers erupted into applause, the sound filling the terminal like thunder rolling across the sky. Justice had arrived. Amira stood taller. Her tears finally flowed, but not from shame. They were tears of vindication. She walked forward, not as a victim, but as a daughter of power, of resilience, of undeniable belonging. And the gate agent? In that instant, his career crumbled. In trying to humiliate her, he had humiliated himself. He had torn up more than just a ticket. He had torn up his future. That day, every single soul in that terminal learned a lesson. You never know who you're humiliating. You never know the story behind the face you're trying to break. And sometimes, the very person you try to silence carries more power than you could ever imagine. This is not just a story. This is a warning. This is revelation. If you believe stories like this deserve to be told, smash that subscribe button right now. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. Because the more we share stories like this, the more we expose the truth. And remember this, what they used to humiliate you today can become the very stage where you rise tomorrow. Stay tuned, stay strong, and I'll see you in the next story.